Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jessica Warren, and I am the Agriculture and Natural Resources Agent and County Extension Coordinator in Camden County. And my partner in crime today is Martin Wonderly. He is the Northeast District Area Water Agent. Martin, if you don't mind keeping an eye on the participant list and letting people in from the waiting room, I'll get us started, and then you can take the second half if that works for you, or we can kind of bat it back and forth if that's all right.
Oh yeah, whenever you want me to describe anything, just let me know.
Okay, I'll just put it over to you.
All right.
So Martin and I are very excited to be with you this afternoon. I have to keep thinking this afternoon because it just changed from this morning. I want to keep saying this morning. To have you join us on our program launch for the Georgia Green Landscape Stewards Program. This is something that we've been working on for, I guess, about a year now. And we've put a lot of effort into, even though there's always improvements that could be made, and we're excited to finally share it with everybody. So with that, we'll get started. I have muted everyone just to eliminate some background noise, but feel free if you have questions as we go along to unmute yourselves. You can also put questions in the chat if you'd like. I know some people are more comfortable with that, but you're also welcome to unmute yourself to ask questions. And hopefully by the time we're done, you won't have any. So, all right. So the Georgia Green Landscape Stewards Program the goal is, what its purpose is to provide educational resources to teach Georgians about a number of different things. This is a statewide program, so our target audience is citizens throughout Georgia, both homeowners and business owners. And what we're trying to teach about is protecting natural resources, increasing plant and animal diversity, conserving soil and water, providing wildlife and pollinator habitat, and improving public and environmental health through those things. So after learning about these more sustainable landscape management practices, participants are able to measure their own activities with the program metric scorecard, which we'll show you and talk a little bit more about in a minute, and earn Georgia Green Landscape certification status for their landscape. So this could be anything from a very small yard to a larger property to a business's landscape. So there's a lot of different ways this can be applied, and it's pretty flexible. So with certification, participants receive, one, the satisfaction of contributing to natural resource protection in Georgia. They also receive a Georgia Green Landscape Steward certificate, and they have the option to purchase a yard sign to designate their property as a sustainably managed Georgia landscape, which we'll show and talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So we'll go through the process of certification if that's something that interests you and what resources are available. So this program encourages Georgians to adopt more environmentally friendly practices and also to consider how their land use activities can complement the natural world. So I think a lot of times in our landscapes, we don't always think about the long-term consequences of our actions or even the short-term consequences of our actions. So whether they're beneficial consequences or negative consequences, one of the ideas of this program is to get you to think a little bit more about that and how things are connected. So that leads us into our program goals. So our kind of overarching program goals for this program are to inspire and educate citizens of Georgia about more sustainable landscaping practices. Through doing that, our goal is to increase habitat for wildlife and pollinators. Part of this is through connectivity of natural areas and corridors. So the more landscapes that implement these practices, the more isolated habitats there are. But if there's multiple properties, say in a neighborhood that are doing this, then that creates a larger island of habitat for wildlife or pollinators. It makes migration easier too for a lot of species that utilize migratory paths. Some other program goals are to decrease stormwater runoff and non-point source pollution. This is important no matter where you live in Georgia. I think if you live in my area, which is the coast of Georgia, you really kind of see that more directly than in a lot of areas. But I know there's also a lot of education and talk about this in the metro areas, and it's important no matter where you live, quite frankly. So, and then the last program goal is to increase soil health, water quality, and biodiversity for our state. And also to protect the biodiversity we have. So Georgia is actually one of the most biodiverse states as far as species go. So, you know, not just creating more biodiversity, but helping to sustain what's there. Also to protect and conserve natural resources, which is kind of obvious. And through doing all these things, another goal is to save citizens time, money, and labor through working with and not against nature. So you'll find that a lot of these practices that we'll talk about throughout the program, through the educational components, they're really designed not just to help the natural world around you, but also they create less work for the property owner. These practices are more easy to maintain, require less chemicals or no chemicals, and are more kind of self-sustaining over time. So currently the program has 10 different educational components. We expect that over time we may have a few more components to add, or the program may evolve a little bit. We're working currently on integrating a team of agents to advise the program for the state. But currently we have 10 educational components, which is what our lectures are based on, and then also what the program metric is broken up into. So those educational components are composting, mulching, pollinator habitat, welcoming wildlife, water conservation, water quality, stormwater, invasive species, native plants, and biodiversity, which kind of ties all of those things together. So with our program structure, we have a website that you may have seen already or may not have, where everything we'll talk about today is contained. You can find everything there. There's a pretty straightforward menu bar across the top that helps you navigate the website. We had some great people with EITS through our college that helped us build that website. I personally am not a web designer, but I was really pleased with how this turned out. It's awesome. So we have this website that encompasses all the components. On the website, you can find PDFs and video presentations on all 10 of the educational components. So you may have seen that we are offering those educational components live as live lectures over starting in April 7th through June 9th, every Wednesday for 10 Wednesdays from 12 to 1 as a lunch and learn series. So if some people I know prefer to see those live or to interact with the speakers, but if maybe that doesn't fit in your schedule, or maybe that's just not your thing to try and attend a live webinar, there are video presentations and PDFs of all of that content on the website. We also have a YouTube channel, which I'll show you in a minute, and all of those presentations, videos of the presentations are on the YouTube channel as well. If you are joining us as a University of Georgia Extension agent, there is a password protected area on the website as well, where you can actually access those PowerPoints in order to utilize them in your own county, or to adapt them a little bit more to your area and present them for local audiences. So you can see here our YouTube channel, which has a crazy long link because that's what they gave us, but you can easily find it just searching Georgia Green Landscape Stewards. It should pop up. Also, all of the videos on our website are embedded YouTube videos, so it will take you to YouTube to see those. So after you go through the educational components, whether that's on your own time at home or whether it's through our series, which you can see the flyer for here that starts April 7th, There is a metric scorecard, which is really handy and self-calculating, and I'll let Martin tell you more about that in just a second. But you'll go through and you'll score yourself, and you'll see if you've attained certification. Martin, you want to take the wheel?
Yes, sure. This is a just a cut and paste here of our scorecard metric. There's a few more slides with this picture on it. These are the actions that you may have already on your property, or you may elect to add some more of these activities to your property to make it more sustainable and become a Georgia Green landscape. So I don't know if we'll get into a walkthrough on the website or not with screen sharing later in this webinar, but we can show you the download process and how you fill this out. But basically our actions are grouped by educational components. So if you're working on composting at home, all of those activities are grouped in topic number 1, and you would just select which ones you've completed, and you can work on this for as long as you want. You can come back to it, add to it. Once you reach 70 points, then you'll be able to have your property certified or your landscape certified by this program. And you just simply check these boxes on your scorecard, and working in a Adobe or some PDF reader, it should auto calculate for you for each section, adding up the points. It does not seem to work when you have it open in Firefox, but I would suggest downloading the PDF of this metric, and you may be someone that wants to print it, fill it out by hand, but you might have to do the math on your own if you print it blank and fill it in by hand. So on the next slide, I think there's one more discussion here about how we develop this metric. So there are 63 total possible actions, and they're spread out across the 10 different educational components. We tried to provide activity, even number of activities in each education topic. The action values are assigned as close as possible based on how easy it is to complete an action and possibly the cost. But the points only range between 2 to 4. And we wanted to make it, something that's attainable and a little bit challenging, so that, when you're working on your landscape, you do have to put in some type of effort to have it certified. When you hit 70 points, then you've made certification status and you can submit your form. So that equates to about 22 actions that you would need to have on your landscape based on the average action score. Now, if you just focused on all the big scoring points actions, you would get to that 70 sooner. If you took a lot of the easier, simpler ones, you would have to do more actions if you did the ones that are fewer points. But it should be relatively easy for everyone to make this certification level. I think there's a maximum of 200 points, and we may end up starting to have to award prizes for whoever gets the most, at least at a county level. So I think that's the last slide on the metric for now. Oh, here's the submission information, which is all on the metric form. You can fill it out with your Adobe PDF and then save it, work on it as you want. Then when you get finished, you enter in your contact information, make sure you tell us what county the landscape is in. And I think most of our guests today are in Camden County. Let us know if you want a paper certificate or an electronic certificate. Suppose you could click both and we could send you both. It's free for those. Then you would let us know if you want the yard sign. You would have to send in a $15 check to Camden County to have the attractive yard sign that we'll describe later. then you would either mail that into the Camden County Extension Office, or you can email this document to our georgiagreen@uga.edu mailbox there, which is devoted to this program. I think that's about it.
Yeah, and I will say, if it doesn't make a difference to you, it'll be much easier and quicker if you email it in. So we did put mailing in as an option for folks, because some folks just aren't comfortable emailing those sorts of things in, and that's perfectly fine. But it does make the turnaround take a little bit longer too. And then, of course, the contact information will not be shared. That's just for our records. And we're trying to keep track too for future use of what counties and locations. So maybe at some point we can have an interactive map statewide of where different landscapes are located. And also because there's been some requests from different county agents to have access to know, who's participating in their county in case they wanted to reach out for a local event or something of that nature. All right, so, and I can, Martin, you can jump in at any point. I don't, you or I, either one could do these. Certificates, this is what the certificate looks like, even though the font for the name and the date is actually a little bit different than that, because our graphic designer used a font that I don't have on my computer. But the certificate, as Martin mentioned, is free to those who certify. So anybody who scores 70 points or higher on the metric. And you can have your certificate either printed and mailed to you, or you can have it emailed to you. That is everything up to that point in the program is free. The only thing that costs anything is that if you want to sign for your landscape, which looks like the one I'm holding right there, it is $15. And there's instructions, like Martin said, at the end of the metric of how to send that in. It does unfortunately have to be check or money order. I've already gotten a lot of questions about credit cards. And though I know that's so much easier and we live in a credit card world, Extension's not quite up with that yet. Most offices do not have the capacity to process credit cards, and it is something that we're looking into for the future. But currently, part of the problem is the fees that are associated with credit cards. And since we don't make a profit off of most of our programs, the fees are an issue. So currently we can only accept check or money order, since you don't want to send cash through the mail. And we do have these weather resistant aluminum composite, very colorful signs. They also have, I can show you one right now. They have pre-drilled holes for mounting as well. So you can mount them on a mailbox, a shed, a garden shed, a stake in the yard, however, you see fit. And it does have our handy dandy branding graphic that we created with the help of an awesome graphic designer that works for UGA, that has a native coneflower and a native bumblebee on it that you can see there. And it does also come with mounting instructions. Mounting instructions are pretty straightforward, but it was just something extra that we added in. And it comes with the 2 screws that are the right size for those pre-drilled holes as well. So we tried to make things pretty much as easy and as straightforward as possible.
I would add that our sign is much more attractive than South Carolina or Florida's, and they have a similar program. So I think our sign is a lot better than theirs. Yeah,
so they do. Florida and South Carolina and a lot of other states do have very similar programs. Georgia's a little bit, I don't want to say behind, but a lot of our neighboring states have had these programs for years. So Martin and I both had independently the idea and started working together to create one for Georgia. We do expect it to evolve some over time, as I mentioned earlier. And we should mention that this program, or at least the startup of this program, the initial seed money to get this started, was funded by a mini grant from the UGA Center for Urban Ag. So without them, we wouldn't have been able to get this start on getting the program done. And I can do, if you guys have questions, you're welcome to go ahead and ask those. And Martin, I can do a little tour of the website as well. So before I stop sharing my PowerPoint, you can see here, this is our dedicated email address that Martin mentioned earlier, which is georgiagreen@uga.edu. And then also our website address down here, but it should also pop up if you just Google Georgia Green Landscape Stewards. And we also, if anyone hasn't seen the flyer or is interested in some of our other programs, this is the flyer for our upcoming educational series. And Martin has also put the email address and the website in the chat box. And he's also handily put the spring webinars link in the chat box as well. So you guys can access that easily. And all of that, of course, is available on the website. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen for just a moment and pull up the website and show you guys. Pull this over here. Right. Okay. So this is the homepage of our website currently. Of course, the homepage kind of gives a brief overview of the program, a lot of the things that we just talked about in the presentation. It's mainly introductory, but there's a lot of links to help direct you to things that you're looking for on the website easily. We tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. You can also see here about there's a link to easily click to register for the education component live webinars that we'll be doing this spring. And then up here, we have this great toolbar that kind of takes you straight to whatever you need. You can go to how to get certified. You can review the education components. Up here at the top, all of these are links to the PDFs. So if you don't really want to watch a video or you don't want to sit down for that long, but you just want to scroll through the presentation and see what's on the slides, all of these PDFs would be perfect for you.
And that link, actually, that link will send you down screen to the video and PDF, and then you would download from these links that are spread out across the screen. That was a IT office decided to do it that way.
Sorry, I misspoke. You're correct. I haven't clicked on them in a while.
Yeah, this particular link that the how to get certified link has a lot of little streets you can take off of there that lead to the education component. One just tells you how to mail it in, and then one of them is the main one for how to get certified, just describes the process.
Yes, so you can see with all of these are from our YouTube channel, which you can, if you just hold over the icon there, you can easily subscribe if you're interested in subscribing, and that will take you there. All of these videos you can watch straight from the website, or you can go to the YouTube channel if you prefer to watch them, but you can watch them straight from the website. You can also, below each one of them, you can download the PDFs if you prefer that. So you'll see all 10 of them here. Over time, as I mentioned, there may be some more to come about. We had also talked about trying to incorporate some how-to videos over time of actually putting some of these things into the landscape. So we do have some future plans. It'll just be some time, a little bit of time.
And I think the videos are really good because Jessica and I might sort of elaborate or discuss in a little bit more detail some of these activities and sustainable practices. So I would recommend, at least watching the video once maybe before you get involved in one of the educational component areas that you're going to work in, and then save that PDF just to reference it later, because the PDF is much easier to flip through and skip to, whatever page it is you want in the presentation. I find that might help you work with the education components a little bit easier that way. So
after you have reviewed those, The second link under that tab takes you to the metric. And you do have to download it, but it's a pretty quick, easy download. There's instructions at the top, but it's pretty straightforward. As Martin mentioned before, you just click the actions under each topic that you've achieved. And we have gotten this question a fair amount about, well, what if it was something I was already doing in my landscape? Does this have to be a new action? No, it doesn't have to be a new action. So if you were already incorporating a lot of sustainable practices, that's great. You still deserve credit for that. So anything that you're incorporating in your landscape, whether it's something newly learned or something that you've been doing for years, either way, you can click those actions. So you can see as I click along, it just puts a check mark automatically and it totals for each area. And then it will do my grand total too. So if I just click a few throughout here, under each topic, and some topics you may not have any. Some topics you may have every single one, and some you may not have any. So,
Jessica, are you able to enlarge or zoom that in a little bit?
Yeah, let me do that. That's a good idea. Is that big enough, or do you think it should be a little larger?
No, that looks good.
Okay, sorry about that.
Bigger if you need to.
Sometimes it's hard to know exactly how it comes across on everybody else's screen. But so you should be able to see, I'll make it a little bit bigger, that it's auto-calculating for each topic. And I'll show you what it looks like at the end.
And some of these actions that that only get a few points are for not doing something. So it's like a non-activity. So as long as you don't compost meat or dairy products, then you get 2 points. Or if you don't buy invasive plants or spread invasive plants around, you get 2 points for not doing something. So the points add up quickly. If you, like Jessica said, if you walked through your property and started checking off the box for things that were already done, you'll be surprised how quickly they add up.
Yeah, I agree. And then you can see that it's totaled my grand total points for all of my different actions and the points within those. So I'm over 70, I'm ready to go. And then you just go down here, as we talked about before, and you can fill in your name, your email information, what county it's in. And then you just click which one you prefer, whether you prefer a paper copy or an electronic copy. I guess you can click both. I haven't tried that before.
I didn't know how to make them only select
one or the other. Hey, that's okay. I mean, if you really prefer both, we can do both. Yeah. You click if you want the yard sign, which of course it will not be shipped out until we receive a $15 check or money order, but it gives you the address to mail that to. And I believe, yep, it even says payable to Camden County Cooperative Extension, because we had to manage the grant funds and the signs out of somebody's office to start with. So over time that may change as far as the location it's housed out of, but currently it'll be housed out of my office because I have a little more capacity to manage that stuff than Martin does where he's at. So you click if you would like the sign, and then also if you're willing to have your name and your town, not your address, not any personal contact information, listed in a press release recognizing that you've certified, which we're not currently using that, but we do have future plans to have some more recognition for folks who are participating in the program and going above and beyond to help have a more sustainable landscape.
And that might be something as much as maybe like a Facebook shout out, or some type of when we compile the information together, say, these many people are in these counties. That's as deep as we will go with that information, and may or may not put a name with it. And if it's ever in a map format showing county or certified properties, they're not going to zoom in. They're not going to be at an actual address, and we're not going to have names on that type of resource.
And I'm going to pause for just a second because we have some great questions in the chat box. So we have one question that says, can we certify our school garden as well? It is already certified as a pollinator habitat by Monarchs Across Georgia. Yes, you definitely can. So this is not just for homeowners. If you have a school garden, or Roberta asked about their church and whether it could receive certification. Yes, if the landscape is meeting the criteria, you can definitely get certification for your home, your business, your church, your school garden, whatever that may be that's fitting those criteria. So any sustainable Georgia landscape can get certified, and we encourage that. That would be awesome. We'd love to see it spread beyond just homeowners as well. Okay, so if y'all have further questions, please feel free to either unmute yourself or put them in the chat box. I'm just going to show you the rest of the website real quick. So this information was already mentioned on the metric scorecard, but you can find again how to send the application in, either the electronic form, which that link will take you back to again, or it gives us your email address, our email address, excuse me, and then also our mailing address. The contact the program information is going to look pretty similar, but it's always important to have a good, clear contact information up there. And then also that even gives a phone number if you need to talk to someone, which would be me. But and then the last link last tab I'll show you up here is additional resources for participants. So these are affiliate links. These are either partner agencies or other resources that may be useful to folks who are interested in this program. So it's just some more information on invasive species or landscape practices or wildlife, pest management information, that sort of thing. And also we have some neighboring states and their similar programs. So just some various links that may be helpful to you if you want some further education on these topics, or groups that are affiliated with those sorts of issues. And that may grow over time as well, of course. I will mention for anyone who is an extension agent, even though I know we did a presentation specifically for extension agents, but I know we may also have a few joining today. This tab will take you to it'll ask for your UGA My ID and your password, and it'll take you to the OneDrive shared file, and it'll show you all the presentations and then also the publicity resources. So like flyers and press releases and things of that nature. So. And with that, we'll see if we have any other questions. Martin, do you have anything else to add that I may have forgotten?
I was just looking at the questions. I think you addressed business properties, but I don't know if you saw the one that was asking about certifying public lands. And then there was another question about a church property receiving certification. And it's the public lands is sort of it's kind of an interesting question.
So I see one about school gardens and one about church. Was there another one about school or public lands? Because I don't see.
Yeah, I think right in between there from Elizabeth.
That may have gone just to you because I don't see it.
Okay.
In the public.
Yeah, and she's asking about a state park. And I think for certifying a government-owned property, which are public lands, whether it's state, county, or city, sure, if they want to be certified, I think some landscapes are just maybe an entire state park might be way too big, but they obviously would be certified. These actions are kind of geared towards home and business activity, not so much land conservation activities, which are probably going to score 200 points because they already do everything. But I would just suggest if it's a smaller piece of public land, that maybe there's a county library or swimming pool or park, recreation park. Maybe I think we would just want the county or city official that's in charge of that property to notify us with the application. So it couldn't be something that a citizen elected to have done on that government property. It would be something that the entity in charge of the public land would need to be aware that it's going to be certified, and that a yard sign may or may not show up on this public space. And I think we would just want to make sure that the application is being submitted or at least made aware to whoever's managing that public land.
Yeah, so I'm guessing Elizabeth may be talking about Crooked River State Park because I believe she participates in Friends of the Park. So I would say if it's like, say, a habitat at the nature center that you're specifically trying to certify, that would be totally fine. Just make sure that a naturalist or the assistant manager or someone for the park is on board or submits the application, and that would be perfectly fine, because I know you guys have a nature center, like a pollinator garden outside of there, and some other habitat y'all are working on restoring. So that would be perfectly fine. So here's a good question. Look at you trying to call me out, but I got you on this one. Is the Camden Extension Office certified? So in past years, it would not have been, but a separate project that I have been working on through an EPD grant was to revamp our landscape, because I had a big problem with the fact that our office did not practice what we preach, even though I was not formerly in charge of our landscape that was managed through the county. So we actually got a grant in partnership with University of Georgia Marine Extension and Georgia Sea Grant. And we installed over the summer. It was actually supposed to be done before that, but COVID, of course, put a wrench in everything. A landscape that does fully meet certification standards. I have not put our sign up yet, but we do meet all the certification standards. We have reinstalled native plants in 2 of our beds. And then the other bed, we also have flood problems at our office, flooding issues. So we actually installed a bioretention cell for stormwater management. And we have native plants in it as well, but it's also a stormwater tool and reinforces a lot of the lessons learned in stormwater. Well, actually, our landscape now reinforces lessons learned throughout the educational components. And that is on display now. We're finishing up signage with a graphic designer that will also educate more about that bioretention cell and our native landscape. And we're hoping whenever it becomes safe to do in-person programming with bigger groups again, to actually have an open house of our landscape. Because the goal is not just for it to benefit us, but to also in our floodwater issues, but also to be a passive educational resource. So everyone who comes to our office, whether it be for programs or for information or for consultations, can actually see these things in action and implemented, and what it may look like for them, or different aspects that they can utilize. So.
And I think
the short answer is yes.
If you're interested in getting your property certified early on in this program, and say you're certified within the next couple of months or so, just stay in tune, because the program probably will evolve. It's probably going to just get bigger across the state, but we do have plans of including more, social media, interactive, follow along activities, and more educational experiences, and then probably also beefing up our educational components or diving deeper into certain topics. So, and I think we ask on the metric scorecard if you put an email address in there, and if you put that in there, I guess in the future, if we do end up with a newsletter or something like that, that would be a way that we can send that out and just keep people up to date in how the program is doing across the state. But it would be awesome if you're certified soon, and you would be the first batch of people to get certified, and you would be pioneers in Georgia green landscaping efforts. So.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I didn't think we would have anyone send in certifications until after today, but for the last month or so, I've had them trickling in, and we've probably, I don't know, certified I would have to look and see, but I'm guessing around a dozen folks so far. So yeah, some people didn't even wait for the program launch, but hopefully this is something that people will be excited about. And like Martin said, and I said earlier, it will grow and change some, but we're glad to get something happening in Georgia in this regard and encouraging more people to have more sustainable landscapes and to work more with their local habitat and nature instead of against it, which benefits us and the environment that we live in. And with that, does anyone else have any questions?
And I think if we have people muted, they won't be able to.
They can unmute themselves.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
so feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. And then also you can put it in the chat box if you prefer that as well.
And if there aren't questions now, when you get into working with you know, the program and conducting some of the actions, feel free to email or call, you know, Jessica or I, or use the Georgia Green at UGA email with your question on a specific action or education component, because there's a lot in there. That covers a lot of ground.
I'm sorry, I had to sign in late. I'm traveling. Is this being recorded?
It is. If you want to send me an email when you have a chance, I will be glad to send it out to you.
Okay, thank you.
I think we'll find a way to put it up on the website somehow too.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that. Any other questions?
Angel Kirsten asked for an email with the
link.
link to the website, which if you scroll up in the chat box, Angel, there should be a link in there to the website. But if you are able to email Jessica or Georgia Green, we can send you the link to this program. But
yes, and she may mean, I'm not sure if she means a link to the website or a link to the recording. So either way, if you want to just send it to us, shoot us an email and let us know, we can send it to you.
yeah, the presentation will, if it goes up on the web, it's probably going to be on it'll be on the YouTube channel, that's for sure. We might put a link to that on the website too.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hang around a few more minutes if anybody has any other questions, but I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and stop recording.